Jake, two good points. The psychology. I didn't realize you were not only a journalist and lawyer, also a psychologist. Those are very seriously ingrained thoughts, fears, anxieties that people have about anything nuclear.
I would like to address that. You mentioned something, and we cannot allow ourselves to succumb to decision-making based on strictly emotion. We have to deal with some
We never
facts.
do that in the state capitol, do we?
Unfortunately, we do. We have to deal with the facts here. And emotionally, Jay's exactly right. There's almost a knee-jerk emotional negative reaction to nuclear energy because of, because of bombs and because of nuclear holocaust and because of radiation poisoning. But then you interjected something that very that right now they're looking into the use of nuclear radioactive material in science and in medicine. And you mentioned SMRs or you mentioned MRIs. Yeah. MRIs have been a godsend to saving lives. The risk in radiation in them, I'll tell you where the big risk in radiation is, and I've got it because I've had skin cancer. The biggest risk in radiation on this planet is something called the sun. And more people are dying of sun-related cancers. Melanomas and sun-related cancers on the skin are killing people. So maybe we should all put up screens across the sun, or maybe we need a carbon blockade to the sun. But the point is, and I'm being facetious of course, that the risks related to peaceful use of radiation, for instance medicine, are negligible alongside of the sun, even the sun, and the benefits are just overwhelming. And the same can be true of nuclear technology for energy, especially with this new technology, small modular reactors. It is a great breakthrough. We're not dealing with, as Jay so aptly pointed out, with 30-year-old technology. We're dealing with cutting-edge technology where nuclear waste is being recycled and where nuclear waste eventually will be neutralized.
Okay, let's go to political risks and barriers. Let's start with the constitutional issue. You said it was an urban myth or something the same way I was convinced in the last session that we had, in effect, enlightened, lit up Kauai with a nuclear submarine. You said it never happened, and you agreed with him, even though people out there are probably saying, hey, I thought we did do that. Well, evidently it's not true, and I'm taking the senator's word for that, and the concurrence by one of Hawaii's better lawyers.
But it didn't happen.
It never happened. But there's also people out there who believe, according to the Constitution, you can't have nuclear power in Hawaii. Give me chapter and verse that says you can or you can't.
Well, it says you can't accept. It says you can't have either, you can't build a nuclear facility, and you can't actually, quote, dispose of nuclear material, except if you get a 2/3 vote of both houses of the legislature, House and the Senate. That's what it says. And actually, you wouldn't have to go through an amendment process to get that approval. All you have to do is have a vote one day. Two-thirds of both houses of the legislature.
Given the structure of the legislature, most everything passes with more than 2/3.
But that came from the Constitutional Convention in 1978, Gene, which is, and if you look at our Constitution, it reads like a city ordinance.
As soon as Apple came out.
Yeah, the Constitutional Convention delved into minutiae that should have never been dealt with in a Constitution. A lot of the Constitution, in my opinion, of the state Constitution has to do with issues that should be dealt with statutorily, not constitutionally. This constitutional provision was born out of just what Jay said. It was born out of an inordinate fear of nuclear energy, born out of other things. Because
New Zealand, I think, had banned nuclear ships from the U.S. at that time.
Yes, except when it comes time for our warships to defend them, then they don't mind them. But the point is, and I love Kiwis, New Zealand's Narnia as far as I'm concerned. It's a beautiful, beautiful country. But nuclear energy, and here's the hypocrisy of the Constitution of the state of Hawaii. We already have nuclear energy here. We've got 10 plus reactors here already. So what's the point of having this noose around our neck regarding how we can use nuclear energy when we already have it here?
Okay,
it just doesn't make sense.
But
Jim,
to repeat and make very clear, the Constitution does not disallow it. It only says if you're going to build or you're going to dispose, get 2/3 vote.
That's exactly right.
Okay, so
I think
this could happen in one session. You wouldn't have to go through the amendment process. You wouldn't have to have a constitutional convention or anything like that. You could have these votes virtually overnight.
And this is,
but as he said, it takes 10 years to get a permit. to
that's the other big impediment. And oftentimes in our country, and especially in government, the stumbling block to anything happening is the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy is like the fourth branch of government. Yeah. You know, you go through the Senate, you might have to go to court. You certainly need to deal with the executive branch of government and getting a lot of things done. But oftentimes the bureaucracy just ties things up for so long you give up. And that's one of the great impediments, if not the greatest impediment to the development of nuclear energy. Right now, we can't recycle our waste. France recycles 90% of it because the Nuclear Regulatory Commission in the United States government, it takes 10 years and hundreds of millions of dollars to build one of these big nuclear generators, stations. The bill that I drafted for introduction in Congress, which Senator Joe Lieberman and Senator John McCain and quite frankly Senator Dan Inouye looked at it.
So is he making an indirect announcement about a future career? I mean, he's rumored to have retirement on his mind, and now he's talking about national issues.
What Senator Hemmings is showing you is that he's a man with vision, who sees beyond issues that must be limited to the state.
Let us hear more.
The truth of the matter is, Gene, you and I both know that a lot of our destiny is controlled, unfortunately, by what happens in Congress. I've got another white paper if you want to do a show on it about the loss of states' rights and the violation of the 10th Amendment to the United States Constitution that said the state should reign supreme over the day-to-day matters of American citizens. Of course,
except when they get paid off by the money that the feds give, and we do it every time. Hey, if we don't pass this, we don't get the $10 million.
It's exactly.
We just get sold out.
And it's our money. We're getting extorted by our own money.
But you know, the fear that I talked about exists on the national level too. And one of the reasons that the the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is slow about these things and has not granted a lot of permits since 3 Mile Island is because they're afraid of 3 Mile Island. They're afraid of what will happen if they make a mistake. They're afraid of the political whiplash involved in anything around this subject. So, you know, I know that there's a lot of red tape and bureaucracy around this, and we see it certainly at the state, but that kind of red tape and bureaucracy exists because the public lets it exist.
Exactly right. And what's even sadder is when I went to Capitol Hill, and quite frankly, I did talk to some United States senators and some Congress people that said, oh, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission won't let us do that. And I almost fell out of my seat. I mean, I said, these guys are elected by the people of our nation to run the Nuclear Regulatory Agency. The Nuclear Regulatory Agency should not be running Congress. And that's why I proposed this legislation.
What's in your bill?
My bill basically says that small modular reactors shall be licensed by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission in 2 years or less. Gene, here's the stumbling block. Right now, let's say that you had a company that wanted to come to Hawaii and build a nuclear reactor to energize this island, or even a small one. It would take about 10 years and hundreds of millions of dollars to get your license. So Jay, my answer to the bureaucracy is, if it takes 10 years, double the effort and double the money, and get it done in 5 years. Triple it and get it done in 3 years. It is ludicrous. Let me tell you something, Jay. People mention, oh, our nation's going to go green. We're going to have wind and solar. Right now, wind and solar is about 1% of our energy source in America. 1%. So President Obama's proposing to spend billions to double our wind and solar energy output in this nation. Well, what's doubling going to produce? 2%. With small modular reactors, we could quickly make a quantum leap to energy independence within a very short time. 2020, we could be totally energy independent from fossil fuel. We don't not wait until 2030. And the point is, Gene, that this is an opportunity whose time has come, and we need enlightened thinking to seize it.
Fred, who's bought the argument? Which states have installed these, or which nations are running with these modular small 20 million?
Japan is in the process. It's brand new technology. It's just developed.
Am I right that it hasn't happened?
It has not happened.
I thought Israel had some, Jay.
I understood, though, that Russia was a market, a likely market, and the Toshiba people were trying to sell Russia. They're trying to sell Japan. They're trying to sell Europe. But so far, and I'm not sure exactly what all the reasons are. I'm sure bureaucracy is a big reason.
New. It's new.
It's new. And somebody's got to take the... If there was just one proof of concept out there, things would change.
There is.